right, ladies and gentlemen and programmers, we're going to do CodeAcademy Lesson 4, Part 4. It's the fourth part of 8 parts. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to open CodeAcademy, and we're going to figure out some stuff from over here. Okay, so I want you guys to read this little section over here, and I want you to try to understand it the best that you can before you start to do the instructions, and then I want you to write down an intelligent question about what they're talking about. I'll even go for a semi-dumb question, just as long as it's a question you have, because some of this stuff is pretty difficult. So a dumb question may not actually be all that dumb. Okay, so write that down. All right, so now write this down in your notes. Write this down in your notes. An instance field is it also known instance field is also known as an instance variable, and that there are the state in our objects. Write that down, and if you don't know what that means, I'll explain it in a little bit. We've already talked about it, but it may be a little challenging. Write this down in your notes. It's in red. An instance variable belongs to the instance of the class. Okay, so in our car example, in the racing game, so let's pretend like we're making a racing game and we have multiple cars. We have an instance of the car class that has a top speed that has been upgraded to 190. Okay, so what that means is we have a class called car, and when we make an instance of the class, we actually have an object. So we actually have a car in our game. And this particular car got upgraded. So it has a variable called top speed, and it used to be 150, and you got some, we won, and so you got some bonuses, and so you upgraded that top speed to 190. So what that means is, so all the different fields of this car kind of define what it is. So if its top speed is 190, let's say its braking is 7 out of 10, its handling is 7 out of 10. So those different fields or states tell us a lot about the car and how it's going to perform. Okay. And by the way, notice this. So here's our car. Here's our variable. This particular type of variable is an instance variable. There's different types of boxes in the RAM, but this particular type of variable is called an instance variable because, see that rope? It belongs to this instance of the class. It belongs to this particular object. So there you go. All right, to declare an instance variable is to create it. Write that down in your notes. So in this case, we're gonna make this a variable called string color. Let's take a look at what we're talking about here. Okay, so if you look here, they're saying string color. So they're basically, for their car class, they're defining an instance variable, so a box in the RAM, and it's called color. Okay, so that means every car that you make will have a variable called color, and the idea is that each separate object, each different car can have a different color. Okay, and so this is what we're talking about. Let's go back to my spiel here and see what I'm talking about. Okay, all right, so to declare an instance variable is to create it. So when you say string color, you're creating the box called color. You're creating that instance variable. To assign it means to put something in the box. So right now we have an empty box called color, but we don't know what color it's holding yet. So you can declare an instance variable, and then you can assign something to the instance variable, which means you actually put something in the box. Okay, in these examples, we'll declare the variable in these examples that we're talking about. We're going to declare the variable within the class, and we will assign something to the variable inside the constructor. So the assignment would look something like color equals red. Okay, and so then why do you think we do it that way? So why do you think we assign? Why do we think we declare in the class and assign in the constructor? Let's take a look at the code here real quick. So basically the idea is, so here is the class, public class car. It starts here and it ends here. So when we define the variable, or when we create the instance variable, it's inside of the class. So when we're going to assign something to it, this right here is the constructor. It's going to go inside the constructor. We'll do that in the next section. So why would we do it that way? Why would we declare the variable here and assign something to it inside the constructor? See if you can come up with ideas for why we do that. Okay, so from our car example again, so we would declare the variable string color, and so what that would do is it creates a box called color that can only hold string, right? So we created the box, but it's empty. So we declared our instance variable. All right. So now if we ever write the code color equals red, we're assigning something to it. We're filling the box. All right. So we're doing it in two separate steps. We create the empty box and then we fill the empty box. All right. So let's go and actually do this code that they're asking us to do. Let's do this project. And I want you to remember it's important to understand the structure so you know where code goes. And notice that we declare a string instance field for product type inside the class definition. And also notice that we did not assign a value yet. Let's see what I'm talking about here. All right. So over here, it's giving us an instruction. It says, hey, add some state to our store class. Basically, they're saying, let's add a variable. Let's add an instance variable. So we're going to declare a string instance variable field for the product type. Okay, so whenever we're looking at all this, this is starting to get complicated, right? What is all this stuff? So it's important to know what the structure is. So if you look right here, here's the opening curly brace, there's the ending curly brace. This is our class definition. So we're creating a store, okay? Now what's all this? Public store. Inside here is our constructor, okay? And so this is what we did this before, but I'm just reminding you. So when we're going to declare our instance variable, it doesn't go inside the constructor. It's going to go right after the public class store. So we declare our instance fields here. It's always the next thing right after our class header. Okay, so I'm going to say string with a capital product type. And then semicolon. So we're going to create the empty box called product type, but we're not going to fill it yet. And so if we run it, it's not going to do anything different than it did before, but now we have this empty box that we're ready to fill. So just like in our example over here, we've created our empty box, and then later on in the next part, we'll actually fill that box, and we'll create this variable that belongs to the instance of our class.